We'll now have the opening sutra. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to, remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's teaching.
All right, good morning. I'll just share a brief statement about the practice and spirit of dana. And in Buddhism, when practitioners share their understanding of the teachings and practice, it is offered freely as a practice of dana paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this practice is done without expectation of getting something in return. This is the spirit of speaking about the Dharma. Other ways to practice dana are to offer support to those who share the teachings, to support places of spiritual practice, and to give without judgment or expectation when opportunities arise. Those who share the teachings at Great Tree do so on a dana basis. Please support their practice by giving what you can. Please support Chimyo. I will drop Chimyo's email in the chat for PayPal, and then Chimyo, I apologize, but I don't have your physical address for folks who want to send dana in. Would you mind to put that in the chat? Thank you.
Well, good morning again. And as I said, this is a hometown favorite who's speaking with us today, Reverend Chimyo Atkinson. Reverend Chimyo Atkinson was ordained by Reverend Teijo Munnich in 2007 and received her monastic training at Great Tree and completed Soto Shu International Training Periods, Hangzhou, in Japan in 2010 and 11. She completed additional training periods at the Aichi Senmon Nisado in Nagori in 2012 and Rumonji Monastery in Iowa in 2014. She served as head priest at Great Tree Temple until 2020. Welcome, Chimyo.
Thank you. It's good to see you all. Please let me know that you can hear me. Okay. Great. Well, as I said, it's good to see you all. And yeah, it's been a minute since I did this. So unfortunately, I was just I think Anne gave a title to this talk, which I tend to usually avoid giving. Usually someone invites me to speak, and frustratingly for me and eventually for them, they want me to give a topic or a title or a description. And invariably, that does not pan out because it's like months and weeks before the event. And, you know, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm not a scholar on anything. I just simply end up talking about whatever is happening in my practice or happening to me at the moment, because just like you, I'm just a practitioner. This is a study of the self, which is not exactly something that can be calcified into a talk, you know, months before, because a month later, my understanding or lack of understanding is what is manifesting at that time. And it could be very different from what I might have talked to you about a month ago, or what I might have thought myself a month ago. So I really don't like to give titles for talks. and it's that thing where if you have an idea, it's what our practice is about. We have an idea when we sit down, and that idea falls away. It crumbles, invariably. It crumbles. That's what Zazen, that's what this practice does. It doesn't create something in stone. It's something that we're constantly working on, or I feel that I should be constantly working on, and not trying to hold on to. So I'm not talking about whatever answer I was talking about today. Okay. I've kind of moved on.
Just talk to me. Just talk.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We
Okay.
love it. We love whatever you say.
I know. I can't help it anyway. So, what I'm talking about today is I've kind of been skittering around in the Shobogenzo, trying to, as always, understand Dogen. And what I fell into, this past week or so was his essay, Doltoku. It's not something that I had seen before, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. It's rather dense in its language, so I it's probably not the most entertaining. But the translator's introduction in this version says that Dotoku, which he translates as on expressing what one has realized, is what his translation of that means is the way in which someone expresses, often through words, what has been realized spiritually. And he continues that it's different from experiencing a psychological insight or having intellectual comprehension. So in a sense, this is what I've just been talking about. First of all, assuming that I have any realization or understanding at all, that's a point. How does it get expressed? How does it get conveyed? As a priest, and many of you have taken Jukai, and the Bodhisattva vows, and one of those vows is to share the Dharma freely. So regardless of how much I understand, or I feel I understand, or regardless of how well I think I can express it, it is part of the vows to do this. It's part of your vows if you take a Jukai, to share your full self, your as much as you can in the moment when somebody asks that question or somebody requests help. That's the Bodhisattva vow. So, in that spirit, I try to remember that spirit when I'm asked to do something like this. And even though it makes me feel uneasy, and that is a sort of encouragement. I'm sorry, not a very positive way of putting it, but it's an encouragement to all of you who are bodhisattvas out there to share it in the best way you can. And I think that's part of what this essay is about. I'm going to go ahead and read the first part of this. This is Dogen. All the Buddhas and all the ancestors express what they have realized. This is why the Buddhas and ancestors, when singling out an ancestor, the Buddha invariably asked, what can that person express their realization or not? They ask this question with their heart and mind, with their body, with their traveling staff and ceremonial hosu, and as a pillar of their temple, and as a stone lantern. For those who are not Buddhas or ancestors, the question does not arise. The matter of their expressing what they have realized does not arise because such a state does not exist for them. Expressing what one has realized is an ability that is not to be had by keeping up with other people, nor is it some innate talent. Simply, whenever trainees thoroughly practice the way of the Buddhas and ancestors, then they will be able to express what Buddhas and ancestors have realized. While expressing their realization for others, the Buddhas and ancestors of the past continued their training and practice, and thereby thoroughly awoke to the way. In the present, we should also do our meditation wholeheartedly and do our utmost to practice the way. When ancestors of the Buddha wholeheartedly do the meditation of Buddhas and ancestors and undertake to put into practice the truth that the Buddhas and ancestors have expressed, their expression of what they have realized represents the effort of 3 years or 8 years or 30 or 40 years as they express what they have realized with all their might. So for me, he's going very poetic, a little convoluted language, a little bit, not in that part, but wait till you get the other part. Saying that, as Buddhas and ancestors, which is, if we're accepting the vow of the Bodhisattva, we are saying we are. We are part of that line. And whatever understanding that we have to share is going to be manifest in our speech, in the way we move in the world. And that's what's important. I can say a lot of things here, and it will never completely encompass the practice, my whatever realization I have, what is my realization. But it shows in the effort that we make as followers of the way to truly follow the path of the Buddhas and ancestors, to to really express the truth. He says in another part of this, that looks all over 6. He expresses it this way: the expression of our realization in the present and our direct seeing of the past are as a single bar whose ends are 1,000 miles apart. Our present efforts are directed by what we have realized of the way and by what we have personally encountered. And when he's, and I probably should have read more of that, but what he's expressing is our connection. We talk about the bloodline of the Buddhas and ancestors that we take when we do Jukai, when we ordain. That's the iron bar. Once we step onto that path, once we dip our foot into that blood, that stream, that bloodline, we are connected. And it's not a matter of judging whether our realization is complete or not, but we complete it upon making that effort, sitting on the cushion, trying to live our lives according to the precepts, and so on. That is realization itself. It goes back to Dogen's expression that to study the way, to sit on the cushion is to be enlightened. As much as I don't like that word, is to attain some realization. Whether this limited body and mind can really contain all that in any given moment or express it in words, that is what we're doing. That is realization itself. If I take it from that point, what is there for me to say at all? And that's what I always run up against when I have to do a talk like this. It's like, what is there really actually to say? What is there really to be expressed if I am not expressing it in my being as it is now? If it's not, if it's not being expressed in my life. I have a friend who's an editor, and he's an editor for a magazine, and reads all kinds of books that are being printed and reviewed and all those kinds of things. There's lots of words out there. Some are expressed very well, and some are not. Some are these calcified sort of, as I was talking before, these calcified sort of ideas. And some of these, woo, magical out in the space sort of ideas. And some of them are all the things in between. All these words, all this effort made to be putting it on the page. Or to make a good speech. He says earlier in what I read, expressing what one has realized is an ability that's not to be had by keeping in step with other people. I read that as in being able to regurgitate, what we've heard, or being able to regurgitate the sutras or whatever. Nor is it some innate talent. It's not poetry. It's simply whenever trainees thoroughly practice the way of the Buddhas and ancestors, then they will express what the Buddhas and ancestors have realized. So in sitting here, doing what we do, if you do it wholeheartedly, with the Dharma as our guide, as our intent, that is an expression. You can't sell it in a book. You can't read it in a book. Not that books and all that are not helpful. They are wonderful. Here we go. Here's Dogen. It's so funny because he's talking, saying these things, and yet he's one of the most prolific of all the writers of Zen stuff in the world. It's like, I understand that, they move a bookcase in Japan and Dogen falls out from behind it, when they do the spring cleaning, It's like, oh, more Dogen. But let me not digress. But it's that way. And he says here, when you use words to express what you have realized, you will leave unsaid whatever is inexpressible through words. Even if you can see what you have indeed expressed, what you have realized, if you have not realized that not all things can be verbally expressed, then you will lack the look of the Buddhas and ancestors. You will lack the bones and marrow of the Buddhas and ancestors. And he goes on to talk about Eka. And Eka is that ancestor who, one of the ancestors who were the disciples of Bodhidharma. And if you remember the story, he has 3 disciples, one of which was a woman, by the way. And he says to one, when they sort of test to express their understanding of the Dharma, one says something and he says, "Oh, you got my bones." And the other says something and he says, "Oh, you have my flesh." And then Eka, doesn't speak. He simply stands up and bows and takes his place. And he says, "You have my marrow. you have gone deep into the bone, into the essence of this thing. And Eka becomes the Dharma heir who continues in mind. It's also, I've lost name. Did I write it down? Mahakasyapa. Is it? Am I saying it right? The disciple of the Buddha who, in a crowd of people, sitting listening to the Buddha, expresses his understanding by holding up the flower with a smile. Nothing said, all expressed. And so even Dogen, the most verbose of our ancestors, who leaves us, his realization, his expression of realization, says we have to understand this. It's not just all here in the book. It's not just all here in whatever I speak to you. And it's here in sesshin, it's here in our sittings, it's here in the practice itself. And beyond that physical practice, talks about, who is it? He talks about the mountain. Oh, here. You're walking, sitting, and reclining while not leaving the monastery will be instances of no one calling you a mute. And when he says a mute, he said it's a metaphor for not being able to speak the Dharma through words. There's two ways in which he expresses being a mute. Mute being that we're not studying the Dharma at all, or we have some false understanding of the Dharma. And so our answers are the pat answers, or our answers are the way off the mark. Our answers show our lack of understanding, our lack of effort. Whereas, even one who doesn't speak a word, as Eka does, his realization is loud and full. You're walking, sitting, and reclining whilst not leaving the monastery. And when I say not leaving the monastery, I'm saying he's addressing a lot of this stuff to the monks, but he's also talking to those of us during the practice in this way of going to the Dharma Center and doing your sitting or doing sesshin or whatever. So don't just read it as he's talking to monastics. He's talking to all of us who are in this practice. You're walking, sitting, and reclining whilst not leaving the monastery will hold on, let me just start from the one. Because it doesn't make it clear. While spending your whole life without leaving the monastery even once, then your sitting is as still as a mountain, which severs the roots of your dualistic thinking. Will before long be an expression of your realization. Your walking, sitting, and reclining whilst not leaving the monastery will be instances of no one calling you a mute. Even though we do not know what our whole life will be like, if we make our lifetime one of not physically leaving the monastery, this will be our way of not leaving the monastery. And what path through the trackless sky could one traverse in order to go beyond such terms as our whole life in monastery? So simply strive to sit as still as a mountain and do not speak of not expressing the words. Not expressing it through words is a way of expressing it that is correct from beginning to end. So in just doing this practice, again, this message seems so simple, but maybe it is. Maybe I overthink it. But just because we don't have Dogen's poetry does not mean that we're not expressing the Dharma in our lives through our efforts. So it's a admonition to continue, not sitting still like a stone, he says as a mountain. And in Dogen's world, mountains and rivers walk. As we go through our life holding, these vows and doing our best effort to be bodhisattvas, that is the expression of our realization. And it doesn't feel like that inside me. I know that I have my limitations and that my understanding is slippery. And that's being nice. My understanding is slippery. It moves. I can see where I've made mistakes or where I have my own baggage gets in the way of my understanding by either taking it and trying to mold it into a place that makes me comfortable, molding, whether it's Dogen's words or the precepts or whatever, molding it so, I can get away with what I want to get away with. I see myself doing. But in seeing myself doing that, that's part of the practice. And that's realization too. And I think that's kind of what's being conveyed here to us as monks and lay people, as people of the way, as people trying to do this practice, trying to really manifest our bodhisattva selves. He gets into some other stories, and I encourage you to read this because I don't know that I have the full understanding of it. He talks about the story of Seppo and a hermit. Seppo is one of the ancestors. I won't go into it because we don't have all that time. Okay? But he's one of the ancestors, and the story is that there was a hermit, a once monk, who left the monastery and set up a hermitage, and he didn't cut his hair, and he was, the ideal hermit with the long hair and, whatever. It says that, it was kind of funny, he said, where is it? There was a monk in the assembly of Great Master Seppo who went just outside the mountain monastery and built himself a hermit's thatched hut. Through the years he accumulated, he did not shave his head. Who can know what kind of life went on inside that hut? As a rule, life within the mountains was depressing indeed. He had fashioned a dipper out of wood and would go to the nearby ravine to get water for drinking. Truly, he must have been the sort who drinks from ravines. What does that mean, Dogen? I guess it's some kind of joke. Consequently, as the days came and the nights passed, words of his customary habits leaked out, so that one day a monk came and asked him, why was it that the ancestral master Bodhidharma came here from the west? The hermit replied, since the ravine is so deep, the handle of my dipper is long. Koan stuff. Yeah. So this is the story that Seppo, the monk that asked this question and got this weird answer, went back to Seppo, who said that this was a wondrous answer. I must go meet and talk to this monk myself. And he goes to the monk at some point carrying his scissors. And he says to the monk, are you expressing the Dharma? If you can express the Dharma, let me get the words here. If you can say what you have realized, should I not shave your head? And what the hermit does is he doesn't answer. He doesn't, answer the question. But the monk goes and washes his hair and sits down in front of Seppo and lets him cut his hair. Now it sounds like, and I don't understand this, and it's on the tip of my understanding again. Seppo asked him, can you say something, wonderful? And if you can, if you really have realization, then I won't cut your hair. But according to Dogen, and what I understand is that he's not actually asking me. This man in his life is expressing his realization, whatever that is. I don't understand about the Dipper. Something Seppo sees in an answer, I can't see it yet, if I ever will. But his Dipper is long. He's dipped into that ravine. He's dived deep into that. It's funny because Dogen says, whatever was happening in that hut, we can never know. And sitting together with us, here of ourselves, each of us on our cushion, I can never know how deep your dive is, how long your the handle of your dipper is, But the work that you do will manifest as part of our efforts together to understand, to realize, to really discover, uncover, those are all the wrong words, to really come into our true nature together, even though it feels separate, even though we feel like we're all sitting in these little hermit huts, but it will show, it will come to light for all of us. And maybe that's not what that's saying, but that's where I am right now. So just to stop talking and allow you all to talk. Expressing the Dharma is easy and hard, just like practice. All you have to do is sit down. All you have to do is make the effort. It's perfect in its expression, even though all of the things I see going on right here, all of the delusions that I'm picking through right here, I know I still have them. But some faith that this effort is pure and this effort is going to manifest in the world as truth at some point. And the fact that the effort is going on, the effort itself is the expression of the Dharma. And so I try to tell myself not to worry, because there's no perfect talk, and even Dogen's beautiful speech, he says his poetry is both wonderful and frustrating. He ends here. Where's that part that he uses? He says, truly, if Seppo and the hermit had not been Buddhas on their own, together with all Buddhas, it could not have been like this. If they had not been one and the same Buddha, and also two Buddhas, it could not have been like this. The black dragon diligently guards the black pearl that he prizes so highly, and yet it naturally rolls into the hands of one who knows how to receive it. The black pearl, I'm trying to remember where that comes from. Pearl in the mouth of the dragon. You know, this Dharma that, seems so hard, that we try so hard and we prize so deeply, holding it in our mouths like dragons under the sea. It always slips and goes straight to whoever's there to receive it. Which is what this is here in this exchange that we do. And I'm not the only quote unquote dragons that we do. The wisdom that we have, that we're struggling so hard to manifest the truth. Pull it out, pull that wisdom out. It's kind of glossy and kind of sort of ego-based. The truth that we have to share is easily conveyed if we just let go of our ideas of how it's supposed to be and who we're supposed to receive it from, and open our mouths when we have to, and stay mute when we need to. So, I'm gonna hit my mute button and stop that here. And thank you for listening. And Shobogenzo, I don't know. People tell me not to tell, maybe Shobogenzo, because lay people are not, into it that way. I'm like, I encourage people, not to be afraid of Dogen. Dogen is hard to understand because he's Dogen. That's who he was. That's who he is, this or whatever. And there's a whole lot of cultural stuff that we can't possibly parse or whatever. But one thing that Teijo once told me was like, when you read Dogen, don't try to understand it. Just dive deep. Just dip that long handle ladle down into the ravine and see what you get out. And don't be so hard on yourself when it's not obvious, or it's not something that it's something that skitters about your brain, and whatever ideas you have about it break apart, because that's exactly, I think, his intent with some of this. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have anything to say or any questions or anything, just glad to hear and see you. Thanks.
Oh boy, I hope we can talk. I have COVID, but I'm safe within my room. I'm getting better. I have a question about the word effort. Well, practice. So practice, kind of continuous practice, is meeting where we're at, meeting the moment. And we say the word wholeheartedly. So wholeheartedly implies kind of raising our energy level. I'm bringing this up because some Zen friends of mine were really big on the word exertion. Like, we should exert ourselves. And that was really bothering me. But I don't know why it was bothering me, because I like words like enthusiasm or zeal or practice diligently, but this effort to be present kind of seems, well, I like when you say pure effort, because like exertion, it sounds almost kind of grasping, like, like I was an athlete, so you were going to like try to attain something through putting out a lot of energy, and then you're probably going to be tired. But continuous practice, as Dogen talks about, just seems like a sustained awareness. And then to be present, we come across things like letting go, settling in, taking the backward step. So to me, those seem more like relaxing, like not making such an effort, to just don't add to the present. So I'm kind of confused between these two things, like wholehearted enthusiast, which we certainly see Zen teachers manifest when they practice. But somehow exertion, I thought, oh man, that's too much. I don't know. Do you have any comments on what kind of effort? It's probably different efforts, different times, but could you make some comments, please, Chimyo?
I get that. I hear you. It's and I totally agree with what you're saying, the idea of exertion. And part of it is simply the English language. I don't think that in my understanding, everything is appropriate to the task, to the moment. Sitting does not mean, sitting with, strength and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean that. It means constantly coming back to, as we, drift away. Just an example, in sitting zazen, the effort is not sitting there making an effort to stay on the cushion. The effort is, being there, allowing the body and mind to drop away, and whenever we start grasping, allowing those things to fall away, and always coming back to the dropping away, not simply trying to grasp onto an idea of what putting more energy into something that is appropriate. You know what I mean? It's always in accordance to what is happening in that moment. So if I'm sitting there and my brain is doing its monkey thing, and I'm sitting there, stop doing the monkey thing, I'm gonna do that, breathe. That's not Zazen. Zen is allowing those things to come up and allowing you to go. And it's not the wholeheartedness is to me being able to sit there without the ego thing of I'm accomplishing or I'm failing or whatever. That's not part of it. Here we are with words again. So I understand exactly what you mean, and I think that when we're talking about exertion or whatever, that is an ego-based thing that is trying, as you say, to grasp things. Letting go is the effort to let, quote unquote, the effort to let go is simply being. And maybe our English, maybe our language, language expresses the values that we have. You know what I mean? So it might be hard for us to express that in words, but it is something that, that right effort, that appropriate energy towards something is it's hard to express what hard to find that word. And the wholeheartedness is, in my mind, you say wholehearted as if, it's, we whatever. But the whole heart is an open heart, right? All of your heart is open to the universe. So instead of thinking of it as being this sort of adjective that implies more, 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 it's simply open, simply expansive in a sense. I don't know what word to use besides wholehearted because that's part of our Zen language here in this culture. But maybe to think of it more instead of wholehearted, more whole-hearted, open, not grasping heart, but the energy of expansion, of reaching. You know what I mean? Does that even make any kind of sense at all? I don't know.
Well, you just introduced some new vocabulary around this, which I found helpful.
Sorry.
I
More words.
found
Okay.
helpful allowing, being, falling away, expansive, open. Those are words that are helpful, I think, for practice and expressing it. That's not in this dichotomy of am I relaxing or am I exerting? It's like these are helpful words. So thank you.
Yeah, because energy is different for different things. You can wholeheartedly care for somebody, and that means exerting your body, exerting yourself, taking care of the world can be exertion and things like that, but in appropriate ways. And the only way to know that appropriate way is to connect with the Dharma. To know what you're doing is exerting the appropriate amount in your action, or your whatever we're doing, whether it's sitting or whether it's working in the world and that kind of thing. So it's difficult to talk about. We're far too glib in the Zen community. We think we know what we're saying, sometimes we're like, maybe. No. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm just so impressed that you were able to talk about this at all. It's a very slippery set of things all the way around. To avoid saying what you don't want to say is really incredible. I find Dogen, I don't usually get much from reading, but I'd like to look back at that essay now that you've talked about it. Can you tell me what the name of it is again? I didn't catch the name of this part of Shobogenzo.
Okay. In this particular translation, which I'm getting it offline because some of my books are still in storage, it's called Dotoku. That's the Japanese name is Dotoku, and this translator says it's on expressing what one has realized. And depending upon which version of the Shobogenzo you're looking at, it's either fascicle 33, fascicle 38, or fascicle 40. And I'm not a scholar, so I don't understand. I don't know what that means in terms of that kind of thing. Let me see. The Dharma reference that I have is, if you want the Shobogenzo online that I've been using, where is it? It's called the Zen site.
Okay.
And it's got a whole page on Shobogenzo, of the Shobogenzo online that you can download and print out. It's all free. Let me see if I can put it on the chat. You know, because the Shobogenzo is volumes. You know, there are volumes of it. So, and it can be expensive to get it. So I just put that in the chat if anybody's interested in finding that. But it's been helpful for me because I can't carry all my books and clutter up other people's houses for it. You know, that kind of thing. But again, you know, as Teijo said, you know, and you know, I've studied Dogen with Teijo, you know, a lot. You know, it's not about understanding. It's about drinking something in, you know. It's almost like when you drink water or you eat food, you know, and it comes over your palate, and sometimes it tastes good and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you don't taste it at all, you know, but within it are the nutrients that are there. You know what I mean? The nutrients are there, and they're going to work on your body. That's kind of what I do with practicing with Dogen. You know, I'm not the smartest thing in the world. Okay, I know that already. I know that already. But over the years and years of just, you know, and there are parts of Dogen that I love, and there are parts of Dogen that I just can't stand. If I have to read that again, you know, but there are also times when I come to those parts, and because we've been doing this practice so long, I know something's there, you know, and so I just give it a chance, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't. And that's just what Dogen is like. It's not like the Bible is going to tell you every single, and I don't think the Bible does this either. You know, not the way we use, you know, the way we use our resources from the past. We expect it to tell us word, you know, step by step by step by step. That's not what this is at all. You know, it's not what this is at all. And, you know, your likes and dislikes about Dogen are going to arise. You get it or you don't, move on to the next chapter. It's always there. You're going to just circle on back when it comes, you know. So I know I'm not a very good advertiser. You have to forgive me. But it's there, you know, and it's there in many other things too, you know, that, you know, are dense and all that. But there's also some beautiful poetry that you may not understand either. I'm waiting to see a mountain, you know, mountains and rivers move, mountains and rivers walk. And there's a lovely idea of that, but what does it mean? You know, and hopefully at some point in my life it may sink in. But thank you.
Thank you.
Chimyo, thank you so much. That was a very helpful talk. It made me think about a few things. One is, after I listened to a Dharma talk and somebody says, well, what was it about? And I'm like, I don't know, but I really feel it deeply inside of me as I did your talk. So thank you. And it also made me think about our culture, how we're expected to verbally express ourselves in such a clear, articulate way that anyone who doesn't do that is often underappreciated. And I don't know. I just think I just appreciated your talk. So I'll just say thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Chimyo.
This is Norma bowing in. And
Hey, Norma.
hey, it is just wonderful to be with you and to see you and to hear you. I just appreciate how you are in the present moment. And I'm just visualizing you in my studio, which I'm in now, doing a flower arrangement, and how you would bring pieces and then look around and then do the arrangement. And they were always so beautiful. And then you would talk about them and it would change a little bit. So I just appreciate how you can do that, how you can be in the moment, how you can look around, how you can be vulnerable. And I think you have a lot of wisdom. And I really love the idea of just thinking about wherever we are, just drinking in the nutrients. That's just a mantra I'm going to keep with me, because I really like that. It's not always good, it's not always bad, but just drink it in and just be with it, whatever it is. So thank you so much for being here today. And I assume you're still in the Bronx.
Yeah.
In my hometown. So I always picture you near the gardens and near the zoo and and all the wonderful places that I enjoyed.
I'm kind of near them. Yeah. I've been to the Bronx. I've been to the zoo, to the Botanic Gardens. And saw the Kusama thing, by the way. But yeah, thanks for the hype. I don't know that it necessarily or anything, but yeah, it's kind of, Ikebana is if you don't know what Ikebana is, it's the Japanese art of flower arrangement, and just doing that. The last Ikebana I did, I'm not going to my classes anymore because it just got too crazy with the COVID and everything. You never could get a schedule, and I remember putting the flowers in, whatever, and one flower just kind of wilted as it was there, as it was in, and it was like the thing I had based my whole arrangement on, and watch it die. I mean, because it had something to do with the water, the what I had chosen at that particular time, what I understood to be the center of that arrangement, and watch it fall away and have to do something else and have to really look at it again. That's kind of what Dharma practice is. We get our ideas, and they just don't hold up because of emptiness, because of change, because of the way, that's just how things are. And it's not good or bad. It's not sad, or it's not something to be fought against, but it's something to keep in your consideration as we go into the world, and remember that it's the same for everybody else. Sometimes our centers fall apart. Am I quoting Gates by accident? Do it again. The center doesn't hold when you have a center, when you believe in that center, because it's all swirling around us. Everything's the center, right? So if that flower falls, pull it out, here we go again. So I love Ikebana. I miss it so much, you know. I'm so glad to see you.
Well, we're reached the end of our time, unless anyone wants to say anything else to Chimyo or speak with Chimyo about anything. No? Thank you for being here. And so now we'd like to give back the merit in the echo. Would you echo me, Chimyo?
I didn't know I was part of the script. May the merit of this penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you. Take care, buddy.
Thank you. You take care too.
Thanks, Anne.
Bye, everyone.